Welcome to New Business in Later Life, where we prove that it's never too late to pursue your entrepreneurial dreams. You will meet remarkable individuals who launch successful businesses over 50, sharing their stories, challenges, and enthusiasm. Your host, Ildikó, is a former social housing professional, textile designer, and teacher who described herself as a life artist. She is now a property professional, business network host, and facilitator of the Entrepreneurs Club. Subscribe now to hear these inspiring stories every week.
My guest today has got one of those career journeys that make you want to sit down with a cup of tea and probably a map. From PA to senior execs, to professional homeopath in the UK and then Greece and South Africa, to corporate care, journalism, PR, now the founder of Graywing Creations. She is a master of reinvention. Add in utility expertise and the flair of writing that cuts through the noise, and you've definitely got someone who's adapted, evolved, and still thriving. Let's dive into her story of ambition, adaptability, and the art of great copy. Today, please welcome Mary. Good morning, Mary. Thank you very much for joining me in the studio. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. How was your journey from Gunnislake to Bodmin?
It was fine, actually. It's always a joy to drive over the moor because it's just so beautiful. And I usually get one or two sightings of my favourite birds, which are, of course, the common buzzards. Plenty of them around here. Yeah. And in fact, I did have one as I was coming down the lane here.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love to actually see them coming in low and slow, and he obliged today, so that was really nice.
When you can, do you choose to take like lesser driven roads, like, lower number roads, well, actually higher number roads, rather than the main roads when you travel across Cornwall?
If I can, if I know where I'm going and I've got time, yes. The only issue with that is because it's rural, which is lovely. I love it because I'm a country girl. You have to make allowances for time for tractors who may be busy or animals being moved from one field to the next.
Yes, that's true.
So,
that's true.
If I'm not in a hurry, then I will, because it doesn't matter. But if I have to get from A to B, then I tend to go on the main roads, which is...
Mind you, in Cornwall, we've got no motorways anyway, so...
No, thank goodness.
even a main road is a fairly small road in comparison. So please tell me, what is your newest business?
Right, my newest business is working in tandem with a company called the UAC team. We are a specialist brokerage based out of London with localised partners like myself, basically helping local business owners source and find the best possible contracts and pricing for all their business utilities. The kind of things that business owners have to do, but they hate doing because it takes time, effort, and they never quite know whether they've actually got what really works for them as a business. So
this is utilities, gas, electricity, water, all of those?
All of those. And
this is to run their factories, office premises?
Business. It's quite a suite of things that we help people with. So obviously everyone needs to heat their building and keep the lights on, so energy. Broadband for communication, mobile in its different forms for either employees or whatever they're doing.
Phones.
And telecoms, specialist phone systems. Then we've got card payment systems, water, and then specialist insurance products as well.
Caught my ear is, why would business people find it difficult to find the best deals for themselves? I mean, as people, we are quite conditioned to find the best deals in the supermarket or go on various websites and find the best deals for our homes.
That's a good point. I think it's primarily two things: time, and also going into overwhelm. Because often at the time of when their contracts may be coming up for renewal, they're going to be bombarded with different providers, all saying, "Ooh, this is what you need. Ooh, no, come and buy from us. Ooh, no, you must actually have ours." And it's sort of,
I suppose when it comes to insurance, probably that could be one of the worst ones, because I suppose gas and electricity is one thing, but...
It's all the same, really, because there are lots of people out there offering it. What we do is what I would say is perfectly timed procurement. So we will manage the whole thing for them and take all of that headache and aggravation away. I will go and talk to the business owner, have a chat with them, find out where their pain points are. If they've got one service particularly that they're not happy with or that they want to focus on, are there any things that you'd like to change? Are you ready to upscale? Is your business growing? Have you got different needs now? And then through learning about them and what their needs are, I'm able then to put together a plan with them and have a look to see what we can do. So the first thing we do is, having established what it is that they want and need, I then get copies of all their recent bills for the different things, and then I send them off to my team based in London. They then get busy working on contacting all the many, many suppliers that they have access to in the different
So there is a whole
things.
team of people doing the, so to speak, footwork.
Yes. So I am
That
the
a business
face.
owner would be really quite overwhelmed with. Even
Yes.
their admin staff could be quite overwhelmed with, because it's not their specialism. Right.
Exactly. But also, being a brokerage, we are able often to leverage far better rates even with their existing providers. So they might be happy with whoever they're using, but we can actually negotiate better rates for them even with that supplier. So being able to do that gives them options, and that's what we offer, is options and taking away the headache for them.
So the hardest part is for business people to find you, or that's kind of your hardest part in your business. Am I right? That to put yourself in front of business people, for them to understand that all they need is just this point of contact.
That's right. Yeah, it's again another example of building trust with local business owners. Primarily, that's what I do. I am the face of the brand. I'm there to actually be their first point of contact, to manage their services for them, and to help them with any queries or questions, which I can then, I'm the go-between. I talk to my team in London, and then I am the local person for them in their local area. So it's building up that know, like, and trust again. Someone that they know that if they've got a query or they're not happy with something or it's not working, they can just phone me up and say, Mary, I've got an issue with my card payment system. Can we chat? Can we make time to discuss, maybe changing it or looking at it, whatever. So, yeah, and local businesses like to have that, because too often their services or whatever they are may come to them through a third party or through someone just on the end of a phone that they've never met. But through having a local person, I can, make time to make an appointment, go in and see them, sit with them. They get to know me. I get to know them. I get to know their business, what is it they want.
I learned this, I don't know, some 13, 14 years ago in a business course, that people buy from people. And I genuinely think that is not going to go away.
No, it isn't. Because as humans, we are social creatures. We need to be able to interact with each other and form meaningful relationships.
Exactly. Well, an interesting point that I hear from a business mentor I listen to every morning is businesses will die who don't use AI appropriately, but people will be here. People will be people.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting analysis to sort of put it right for ourselves, that we don't actually have to worry about it that much. We just need to be adaptable as humans.
Yeah, that's right. I think people still enjoy being able to sit down and have a conversation with another person face to face, in a relaxed environment, and where they can feel free to actually unburden themselves. Say, I really can't cope with this anymore. I hate this. I had exactly this situation about 6 months ago. I walked into a local pub, got to speak to the business owner. Fortunately, he was there. He was gracious, gave me 5 minutes as a courtesy visit, introduced myself, and said what I did. I'm here to help local business. And the first thing he said to me was, thank goodness you're here. He said, I am overwhelmed with the calls I'm getting from all my energy providers. I don't know what to do. I said, great, I can fix that for you.
How wonderful. Yeah, absolutely.
That's an example of what I mean. So, yeah.
Because you had a face, you had a body, you were there in person offering them actual help.
Yeah.
So what led you to this job?
It's quite extraordinary when I think of how I arrived at this point. Through my work as a partner with Utility Warehouse, my senior mentor is also part of the UAC team. Okay. It's not unusual for Utility Warehouse partners to look after the business side of things, because they get good at what they do, looking after people's household essential bills. So they just translate that and move it into the commercial sector. And she approached me and she said, knowing me, and we both had a corporate background, she said, I've got another idea, Mary, that I think you might enjoy doing alongside this. So I said, okay. She told me about the UAC team. She's part of it. And she said, because you've had a background in the business world and you're not intimidated by talking to other business owners, she said, I think this might suit you and you would enjoy being able to help them.
What a wonderful quality that is, that you are not intimidated by talking. How many people are?
This goes back to my very first career, because I've moved slowly through different things in my life. I was a professional homeopath for many years.
Okay.
And one of the the prerequisites for being able to be a good practitioner is being able to talk to strangers
Yeah.
easily and try and help them feel at ease, because there is my patient, I need to be able to help them relax and unburden themselves so that I can get to the very central point of disturbance and figure out what exactly is going wrong with this person. Why are they ill? It isn't necessarily because of their diagnostic label. There's something else driving that. So that, I think, has and the training I had with that has helped me hugely in the direction I've taken in my business life.
Funny enough, I would have thought that that's a kind of talent to be able to talk to people on that level, but you just said that you've had training about it.
I do like talking to people. I mean, yeah, I think, I genuinely do, because I find people interesting. Even the people I talk to with UAC, they might drop something, because my ear is always open for the unsaid. They might drop something into the conversation and I will file that mentally for a minute and then come back to it a little later and say, I noticed you said that you loved da-da-da. How often do you get the chance to do that?
Well, you already mentioned this know, like, trust. So you get to know them, you listen to them, and they feel important.
Yeah.
Because we all want to.
Absolutely, they are the most important person in front of me. Yeah.
Heard and seen.
That's right. Yeah. And hopefully, they don't find me too much of a chatterbox. So I have to remember to sometimes.
Well, but then it's personable, isn't it?
I suppose. I hope it is.
The proof is that your colleague picked you because she thought you would be very good at the role.
Yes.
So clearly you must have had very good feedback. You must present yourself very well.
I'm okay with walking into a strange place and walking up saying, hello, my name is whatever, because that's why I do that all the time with Utility Warehouse, talking to households. And I get to meet some wonderful people. Really, I have a lovely conversation. Sometimes it's not about their utilities. Yesterday I saw an older lady and she was talking about, I noticed her garden was beautiful and I love gardening. And I made a comment when I was chatting to her. I said, your garden is outstanding. And she said, I do love gardening. And there the conversation went. Yeah. And it was really nice because she immediately relaxed and she could relate to me as someone who genuinely appreciated a pretty garden, and it was,
Yeah. In fact, I've never done sales kind of jobs in my entire life. It doesn't scare me, but it's just kind of alien to me.
Yeah.
It's just not something I've done. To go and knock on doors or whatever, I don't know how to even imagine being a utility warehouse agent, apart from obviously meeting yourself and a couple of other people doing it at networking events. I cannot imagine door knocking to try and sell a service or a product to people.
Yes. Because one of the things I say to people when I knock on their doors, I post my card through, so they've seen that for a day before I go back and say hello, is basically to introduce myself to them so they can see there's a person behind the name, have a quick chat and tell them who we are, so they can, because some people know us, some people don't. But then it's one of the first things I say to them is, don't worry, relax, I'm not selling anything, because I'm not. All I'm doing is fixing a time to suit them, and I can show them another option, and that's what we do. We show people another option that's going to help them save money.
And then they can make a decision.
And they can make a decision, and if they want to make that decision, then I'm there to help them move through the process. So in that sense, because I'm not a salesperson, either, I've never ever done that. But again, it's through training we get access to very good training to help us understand the psychology of humans and why they respond as they do and what that means.
My fear perhaps then just can be down to the unknown, fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you questions along the lines like, so in business, what are the things that help you along the most? And I think you started touching on it, the training. So
yeah, definitely training. I suppose because in every job I've done, I've always taken advantage of any training on offer, because through training you learn about yourself too. You learn where your weaknesses are, you learn what your strengths are, you learn how to grow and move forward. You learn to recognise your own fears and understand where they come from. And often they come from childhood and are completely unfounded, but you carry them. So all of that. So training for me is essential. I never ever want to stop learning. I love learning.
Oh my goodness, that's been one of the most revolutionary things in my later life, in these recent years. Still love learning.
Yes, yeah. And I think as humans we do, because it's discovering things about the subject and about yourself. So for me it's never onerous. I have a curious mind. I love to talk with other people who've done where I am, and they've moved on. Like my senior mentors are fabulous. I find them very inspirational because everyone starts at the same place, but they've grown and developed as people and their businesses. So they have always got wonderful nuggets of information or encouragement or advice to share. And I hope too that as I progress and learn, I'll be able to do the same for people coming up behind me.
Would you actually consider doing that to progress up to mentoring people rather than doing the, can I call it the footwork? Like to actually go door knocking to businesses? Would you want to move out of that role into more mentoring role, or would you still be doing it anyway?
I think UAC is slightly different because it doesn't have the same kind of structure as a utility warehouse. In utility warehouse, you can build a team in UAC, and I suppose that is there. But more particularly, yes, I am already building a team, and I do intend to keep progressing that, building a team, and then again mentor and train them to build their team, and so it goes. So you get this nice group, because I would very much like to continue to progress, because that's where I can use some of my other skills in supporting people and helping them. And also, as your team grows, you get the opportunity to be involved in other aspects of the business too, the more senior you get.
Yes.
So that's also very interesting. That opens up other doors. So yes, definitely that's my focus, my goal.
How old were you when you set up this newest business?
UAC team, I was 63. Yeah, that's
Blimey.
right.
So
Yeah.
technically, 2 years away from official retirement age?
Yeah,
and now you enthusiastically talking about?
Officially, I think my retirement is midsummer 2027, almost 2 years. That's when my state pension will officially start happening. But for me, no, I don't see retirement, because this is something that I want to work and build in my own time. I can quite probably see, because I've got my own goals and visions and plans, I can quite probably see that I'd like to be able to slow down and not work as hard as I'm working at the moment when I get to 70. But who knows, so long as I'm healthy and I've got the energy and I still love it, yeah, great.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Now, if you progress up the ranks,
Yeah, up the levels.
or sort of just into slightly different roles and
Yeah.
explore different things, would that mean that you can actually go, or I suppose you can go part-time now if you wanted to, or does it give you different opportunities in that sense, like less pressure or less time to work?
Yes, because your income grows exponentially with that. It unlocks what we call residual income, and that's the real cherry on the pie. If you build your business properly, and I'm focusing more on utility warehouse here. As you build your team, and your team builds its team, and that team builds its team, your residual income starts to grow and grow and grow, and that gives you a lot more financial independence, which frees up your time, because you're not so focused on doing the do.
Of making the money.
Whereas I've got more time to mentor and support those who are still learning and growing. So yes, it gives you a lot more options to live the life that you want to live, definitely. And also, I would be able to spend more time writing on the projects I want to write, rather than focusing mainly on that at the minute. So
yeah, because when I first met you, I met you as a creative writer.
Yes, I still am.
Awesome.
Yeah, I still am, yeah. It's a case of, I have 3 plates that I spin, and they're going at different speeds.
How do you find it? Because I kind of run and build a number of businesses, but it's really making sense that if you don't focus on something completely, that just falls to the side.
Keeping everything moving as it should. I have just finished a piece of writing actually for a company that has said to me that they will give me more because they were very happy with what I did, and it's a subject that I really enjoy writing about, which is great. It's a matter of, I suppose, in my marketing of myself and my socials, I keep it audible that I am a creative writer, that I'm a freelance content and copywriter, so that people hear that and know that. My website is there with a portfolio, which I can now update with another piece that I've done. But it depends on the audience too. It depends with who's in the room.
Who you are interacting with, yeah.
Yes, if their focus, I know, is not necessarily, they're not looking for a freelance writer, but they are a company, or they know companies who would welcome talking to me as with my UAC hat on, then I'll focus on that. So it is a matter of apportioning my time and energy and making sure that there's enough voice and presence out in the in the marketplace. My social media, particularly, I vary my posts on on LinkedIn.
I think that is kind of the hardest part because I actually, on a very similar level, I had a very good piece of advice just yesterday because now between me and my husband, we've got about 5 businesses, which is okay. Entrepreneurs do have multiple streams of income at networking events and start in true entrepreneurial style. I've got blah, blah, so many businesses and they are X, Y, Z. Afterwards, I asked the person running the event, I said, can I actually bring in my husband's business into it? Because, I'm paying for a membership, I'm here in person, but, it's us as a family in a way. And he said, one business at a time. Said, whatever networking event you go to, you may do that, but just narrow it to that one. Don't bring all of it in because people won't remember all of it. Gauge your audience and pitch that business.
I go to regular networking events. I'm like my local chamber. They have a monthly breakfast. And when I first used to go there, I was still very much focusing on my writing, but I realised that a lot of the businesses there are local. They're too small in terms of commercially too small. They wouldn't hire me. My kind of skill level and price tag, if you like, would be better suited to medium, large and corporates. So now I go there under the guise of UAC because they're businesses that need to have, if they're going to survive locally and do well, they need to shave as much off their overheads as they can, and that's where I can help them fix that issue. I'm a member of another big networking organisation that has, it's international, has a big online presence. Then I might necessarily, whoever's going to be there, I might talk about my writing. So so I suppose it's a pick and mix really. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's just the way it's fallen, I suppose.
Why would it not be ideal?
Well, I suppose it's just mental gymnastics for me.
No. You mean it's not necessarily ideal for you as a person?
Yeah. Just
It kind of momentarily came across as it's not an ideal situation.
No, I suppose it's just having to be, flexible, like thinking, oh, who am I today?
With menopausal brains, it's kind of like I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, what day is it today? What am I doing?
Yes.
So it's kind of you go into a room and just gauge what's going on.
Yeah, obviously I'd like to continue to be able to write because that is my passion and that's where I've been doing that for most of my life in one role or another. Before I realised that actually I should be doing it for a living and just focusing on that, whatever role I was in. People always said, oh, you write so well, would you write this for me, even if it wasn't my role within the company? So,
okay. I was going to ask you, so you mentioned running a homeopathy business when you were younger, much younger, or?
I trained in my late 20s.
Okay, so you're quite young?
Yeah, so I had my practice when I was probably, I lose track now, probably about 30. And I practiced for well over 12 years, both in this country and overseas.
Okay.
Until, ironically, I worked myself into the carpet and became unwell, which wasn't very clever.
Mind you, it's kind of like a mechanic's car is the one that's falling apart,
exactly.
and the builder's house that's falling down, and so on and so on.
Exactly.
Have you ever worked corporate? Like in a corporate environment, or have you always been self-employed?
Oh no, I've had a corporate life as well. Yeah, very much so. My most recent role was with a company that is a corporate organisation. I was with them for nearly 10 years. That was in the care sector. They are well-respected home care franchisor. So I started my role with them at ground level. That's when I came back from overseas. I had to come back. I was ill and my mother wasn't doing so well. So I had to get some interim work quickly. And I started at ground level working as a care worker, going into people's homes, delivering home care. And they saw me as very suitable because I had a very good medical training background.
Okay.
Again, working with very sick and vulnerable people. Having run my own practice, I knew the importance of time efficiency and time management. So I did that for a year. I had my own list of clients, and then I went to see the MD and said, look, I'd love to come into head office if you've got any roles within head office, because I'm not using my skill set. I went into the head office and worked my way through the business doing different things. So I learned about the franchising side, which is the business side. And then because of my writing, again, I was asked to write, and I evolved into doing that, handling the public relations and marketing side for the head office, and then doing some training for the franchisees and how to handle some of the PR. And it just went on from there. So that was my last corporate role.
I admire your ambition to be so active about moving on, moving forward and moving up. And by the sound of it, you're doing it in your self-employed business as well.
Yes. I can always see the possibilities in an opportunity, always, because when when Rebecca, my mentor, said, I've got this idea for you, and this was the UAC team, and she talked to me about it, instantly I could see the opportunity. I thought, hey, that's interesting. Never even knew, that there was such a thing. So I'm always one that's lived in the risk, if you like, and grabbed an opportunity, because I think, that's just me. If you don't do that, you'll never discover new things. You'll never keep moving forward. You'll never grow, never learn, never get where you want to go.
I think this is an incredibly important message to emphasise to any listeners who are just thinking or think that they are not good enough or not clever enough or don't know enough. What would you say to those people from your own experiences?
I would say, don't worry about it. None of us are. Just do it and keep learning and keep pushing forward. Grab every opportunity you can to learn from other people and surround yourself with people and take advice from people who have succeeded and have started, did what you did. I never listen to anyone that's not set out to do what I'm doing who hasn't succeeded.
I think the greatest failures of ours is that we listen to friends or family members who've never done what we want to do.
Never got there themselves.
Yes.
They've always got oodles of advice, but none of the results. So I say, well, that's very nice, thank you. And then completely disregard it.
Yeah.
Because it's well-intentioned.
Yes, they do it out of care, absolutely.
Yeah, but often its foundation is ignorance, unfortunately. It's just people say things for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's well-intentioned, sometimes it isn't. But
if I look back at things that people have said, it's often out of jealousy.
Yeah.
That people are just jealous that you have the ambition to want to try something. Again, it's human nature, isn't it, to pick out the possible failures. But then you need to tell yourself, you need to be strong enough to tell yourself that what if it works?
It's all about mindset and actually being discerning. That's the two things that I often talk about, or, I have written a blog about discernment in all things. That runs all the way through my life on every level. Even as a child, I realised that understanding what that word was, I was automatically discerning, who I should listen to.
Would you mind explaining it to me, please?
Yeah, well, who I should listen to, who I should spend time with, even as a child amongst my friends, who had good intentions, who perhaps wanted to trip me up or make fun of me. So be very particular about how you give your love and energy to others in that sense. Just discern the situation and make those careful choices as you go through life. We all trip over, we all fall up, we make mistakes, that's how we learn, doesn't matter. I've become much more discerning over the years too as I've got older around who I choose to talk with, who I choose to give my energy to. I don't have to listen to everybody, it's not necessary. And I don't have to spend time with people who I feel have not got the same values or mindset as me. I don't waste time with people who are what I call, the ne'er-do-wells, the naysayers, the negative Nellies. I haven't got time for it, I'm not interested. That's where they are, that's fine, that's where they are. But I don't want to waste time with that because it's not where I'm going. I love to spend time with people who have got a forward-thinking, positive mindset, who get joy out of every day. Doesn't mean that every day is great, but we can still find something in that day to lift us.
Yes,
something very small, even,
It's the little gratitude diary at the end of the day kind of thing, isn't it? Just write down a few things, or even if you just think about a few things
Absolutely,
that went right in that day, and they will
There's
undoubtedly put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So that you can end the day on a positive.
Yeah. People arrive at that conclusion or that sort of epiphany at different times in their life. I think it's very important to understand that as humans, we're all on a different path and journey, and people are in different places for a reason. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay in their place. You can move on and do different things, and that's fine. It doesn't make you a better person or whatever.
Just different. This is my thing. It's just different. I really don't like it when people say, immediately interpret something as wrong. It's not wrong or bad or whatever.
It's just different. It's different, and you're in a different place of growth and learning. We all start from zero. Everyone has the same amount of hours in the day. Nobody wakes up with 2 hours more than the next person.
That's true.
But it's how we choose to use that and how we choose to see things. It's all about, again, mindset and perspective. How do we choose to see our failures, in inverted commas, which aren't? It's just another learning process. Now, it's taken me a long time to get my head around that because as a 20-year-old, I was hugely ambitious. I think I still am, but I've...
Yeah, of course you are. By the sound of it, you are.
But I think now I don't see things not working as I want them to as a failure. I don't. I think, okay, So maybe that didn't work so well that way. Maybe I just need to adjust my thinking and try a different way. But it is very much about mindset. You know, I have met some people in my life, both, you know, friends and family, who, again, just tend to like to make fun of, maybe mock, whatever. Again, I just don't pay attention to it. Years and years ago.
What you're doing.
Yes, or my ideas or whatever. You know, usually it's because they haven't got the wherewithal to get up and do it themselves. So they don't want to see someone else do well, because it ultimately highlights their own failure.
Jealousy, isn't it?
Yeah. Or it's just feeling inadequate. That's their internal dialogue. Doesn't mean they are inadequate. It just means that they've got an internal dialogue going on saying, oh, you'll never do it. You'll never succeed. Why try? Why bother?
Just sort of recently, I took part in a little challenge, and one of the tasks was to find out our little devil, you know, what are the naysayers in our own head, and then write it down, and then write the opposite down, and make that your daily mantra. And I kind of concluded something that the little devil on my left shoulder is telling me all sorts of things. Fortunately, I'm half deaf on my left ear, so I don't listen to him too much.
That's very good.
And move on, which is true. I do have hearing loss, but yeah, it became a really good little metaphor for my own self, that I don't listen to my little negative devil telling me that I can't do it, or what am I doing. I just get on with it and do it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Probably about 2 years ago. Again, these people are presented to me, I think, in my life because I'm open to it. I met someone again through networking, who introduced me to the most amazing life coach. And I realised I was in that place, having made these huge decisions to leave Sussex, rip up my life and start again and come here with nothing, that I needed to actually open my mind up at the possibilities that lay in front of me and help me to see the potential within me, and that I can do this and make it work. So I went through I met this person, we immediately connected, and I did a year-long training course with her, and it's part of the Proctor Gallagher Institute mindset training.
Read or listened to actually a couple of Bob Proctor's books, and I absolutely adore his theories and teachings. Great. Totally. I think one of his books I probably listened to minimum 5-6 times. Because I listen, it's not like a book where you can just reread a paragraph, so it's good to re-listen. But what I also like about re-listening to books in a few months or even a year's time is almost like a checklist in a way. Oh yeah, I've implemented that. Yes, I'm doing that. Oh, maybe I need to do a little bit more of that. It's my own little checklist in a way, that I'm progressing, I'm moving forward in my mind, in my business, in everything.
So it's good that you know about that, because I try and encourage people to listen to him and to read as much as they can. I'm a great reader, I always have been, and that's part of my writing, if you like, is always reading.
Yes.
But one of the key books that I read during this was Napoleon's Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And it doesn't necessarily mean rich in money, but it's grow rich in your life and your success and the way that you move forward and grow your business, whatever you're doing.
Because wealth can mean a completely different things to different people.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What is financial freedom? It's
choice, having options, and more time to do what you want to do.
You need to put your own figures to it, and it will be completely different to the person next to you. Was indeed Bob Proctor's Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life.
Yes,
That's incredibly eye-opening.
It is. And yet what really shocked me when I first started doing this training was the fact that a very, very small percentage of the human population actually are aware of this. Most people are just going through life, going through the motions. They're on a program almost because we are programmed from being, as he says, from being very little. The stuff that comes into our head, and that's off we go. We're like little robots with all this messaging in the head, and we live through
and the
our
society
emotions
rules,
and the society rules.
But if you think about it, it's kind of like, it's not a government's interest to have healthy people, because then, because then there's no research, there's no money to put into research, and so on. And this is for everything. So why isn't there any financial education in schools? Because then we would have educated people, not doing all sorts of what we perhaps now called boring jobs, or you know what I mean?
Yes, just ordinary mundane jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose in some way it is necessary, but then there are some of us who break out of that.
Absolutely, because we think, this is, and think doesn't mean have an endless trolley of meaningless thoughts running through your head, because we all have that all the time. This computer goes on chattering grrr, endlessly, but it's actually thinking means being aware, and actually being aware of yourself, knowing what kind of stuff that's in your head, and learning to use your higher faculties all the time rather than living through your emotions. And as Bob says, you learn to live from the inside out. You don't let the outside events, conversations and things deflect you or distract you. You live from your own internal place of conviction, calmness, centeredness, and express that outward. And in doing so, again, you draw people to you and into your world and your business that you want to spend time with. Again, the discernment comes around through that as well. I'm very happy that I met Donna, that I went through the training with her. She's an absolutely incredible woman, wonderful woman, and very likeable, full of fun. And she genuinely has that expression of joy, and I'm always looking to find joy, because joy and happiness that's what we are here for as well. We're here to be our best creative selves, but to enjoy doing that, whilst we do.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
You talk about this with so much passion. Have you actually thought about becoming a Procter & Gallagher trainer yourself?
I did, actually, because when I met Donna, I did, but I suppose at that time I was focused so much on doing what I'm doing now, because for her it's a full-time business.
Right, okay.
I thought, I can't take on any more. I'll explode.
Yeah, that's true. You need to be selective sometimes. I've entered 2 major things. I need to leave it at that. I
Focus on
can't
those.
do another one.
Yeah, because it would be very easy for me to get distracted with that. But then this is what happened to me when I was living and working overseas. I focused so much on my work as a homeopath that I actually didn't take enough time out to rest and recover aside from my work. And ostensibly I was working with very sick, fragile and vulnerable people who were sick, fragile and vulnerable on every level.
But then, of course, they had a profound effect on you.
Yes, and even though, you do learn training again to actually separate yourself from that, it's just the amount of effort and energy I put into that without having enough downtime to do the things that I wanted to do.
So did you run your own practice abroad rather than working for a medical institution?
I joined a multidisciplinary practice, several actually, but it was always my own business. So I worked with chiropractors and osteopaths, but it was always, I was the homeopath in the clinic. So yes, it was great, but that was the lesson to me when my own health began to fail. I thought, what are you doing, for goodness sake? Yeah.
Can I ask which country you were in?
South Africa.
Okay.
I was there. Well, I went to Greece actually for a year because, again, I had another opportunity, came up.
Yeah.
To actually, and it was my writing, lo and behold. Professor Vithoulkas is one of the world's, he's sort of retired now, but he was then one of the world's, or if not the world's leading homeopath, very, very well-known, respected practitioner, teacher, ran his own academy, and was an author of many books which were very much part of training when you train as a homeopath. And I had an opportunity, I can't remember how, somebody found me, I can't remember how it came about, but the opportunity to go and do some editing work for him in Greece. He had enough work for up to about 3 years, editing his conferences and seminars.
Was he delivering them in English?
Yes, he wanted them in
English. Or was it Greek and then translated? And
No, he was actually speaking in English, but what he wanted was for me to actually, they were all recorded, so I had to listen, and he wanted an English-speaking professional homeopath who could do this work, put it into comprehensive notes for him that he could then use and turn into a new book of medicines that he was putting together. So there was another opportunity. I love languages. Greece is lovely. So I got myself a course, started to learn Greek. I went out there and I spent a year out there. I intended to go for longer, but I had problems with my eyes, which, again, nobody saw at the time because of the heat and the dryness, etc. Affected my vision. Of course, I can't see, I can't read.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So, that sort of cut that short. But that was another opportunity again, which I took, and I made very precious lifelong friends from meeting people there. And that led me to South Africa. So it's like a stepping stone, you know, that these things come up. And I went to SA again, just on my own, packed my life up, everything, put my house up for rent, and I was there for 7 years. And I would have stayed if my health hadn't let me down.
How interesting that you had health issues at various points in your life, and they all brought you back.
You know, I love England. It's very, very beautiful, and I'm a total country girl, so I'm happy if I'm surrounded by farms and cows and nature. I've lived and worked in big cities, but it's not where I want to be. My heart always feels a twang for Southern Africa. It's such a beautiful country, and dear friends I'm still in contact with there. But it was the situation that presented itself at the time. I had to make some tough decisions. And again, my late mother, wasn't very well, and it was important that I actually went home. I needed to recover, but also I'm glad I did, because she only lived for another 18 months. So
you spent time with her.
I spent time with her. So if I dilly-dallied, that probably might have been like, maybe regretting the decision to stay on. Who knows? But anyway, so that found me back in the UK, and then off I trot on the next leg of the journey, which again brought me here.
Are you quite set in Cornwall now?
Moving from different countries is exhausting, and starting from nothing is exhausting. So no, I don't think I could face doing that again. Not a third.
Fair enough.
No,
fair enough.
It will be one step just too far. As much as I still like to visit, but not to go back and up sticks and go back. I think my papers have run out anyway now, because I had permanent residency in SA.
Oh, okay.
And I just reached that point where I could have applied for citizenship. Yeah. But I didn't, because I knew I was going to come back. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So going back to current business, we've talked about the positives and how you can build it. What have been your greatest challenges?
Overcoming my own impatience, I think.
Impatience?
Yeah,
gosh.
just because I just want everything to happen tomorrow.
Never, or yesterday. Yeah, and I would never have put you down as an impatient person.
Oh, bless you, thank you. That's one of my biggest faults, is my impatience. It's something I'm constantly
I mean, you did mention that you work to a tight schedule, but to me that's just organised.
Yeah, I am organised, I am organised.
It's just simply your standards are very different to other people's.
Yeah, and I have to remember that, because people work differently and people live differently.
So if somebody was starting out in a similar role, somebody wanted to, obviously utility warehouse agents always try and find somebody else to build into their team. So if somebody thought about setting up, what would you advise them?
Do your homework first regarding whatever business you're interested in terms of the market. Make sure you have got enough, just the practical things. Look at your financial situation, your cash flow, because you're going to need to allow time for your business to grow and develop.
Yes.
And you're going to have some kind of cash flow to live on, pay your bills whilst you do that, unless you have a second person in the home that's able to support you. But like me, that's an important thing for me, was doing that. I think never take your eyes off the end goal. Live from the point of having achieved what you're aiming at. Don't live in the, what if tomorrow? Continually focus on that, and be organised with your time, be disciplined with your time, and be consistent at working at it every single day in some way, whatever it is. Small things, little things. Work on it all the time if it's just one business that you're looking at. So,
yes.
And also think carefully. Solopreneurs spend a lot of time on their own. Now, if you've come from a corporate background where you're used to being part of a team, or even a small office where you're used to having people around you, before you start out on this journey, be very honest with yourself. How easy am I going to find this when I am removed from that, and I've only got myself, my thoughts, my worries, whatever, that might be crashing in on you one day? So look at the structure of what you're setting up. And be kind to yourself. Think, I might have bad days, but be honest in what it's going to require. Grit, determination. Don't take your eye off the goal, ever. Don't listen to other people saying, you won't do it, it's this, that and the other. No. Block all that out. Keep your eyes focused on that goal. That's where you're going, and that's what you do. 1% every day. 1% every day. You fall down, doesn't matter. Get up. 1% every day. You're having a bad day, you're knackered. Doesn't matter. Get up, keep doing it every single day.
Very strong message in there. Very, very strong.
Yeah, because you have to. Otherwise, life will come along with all sorts of things.
And knock you
Give you a punch
sideways.
off the nose, knock you off your perch. And there may be days when, I have days when I feel really tired and I think, whoa, I might have to change my schedule today because I can't stuff in as much as I wanted to because I just haven't got it. But that's also because I'm not 30 anymore.
Yeah.
I have to adjust, and recognise that my head's saying, oh yeah, go on, go girl, go girl. But I have to work differently.
You need to schedule a bit of off time. But
Yeah.
you would have thought that you would have learned that in your life, having gone through
I know,
all
you
the
see?
health issues.
Exactly, yeah. You forget because, we do when we're...
The one thing I would add to that is, as again, very important, is to time and time again, just take stock of what you've achieved.
Yeah.
Because when we sort of go along, as you say, the 1%, the 1%, the 1%, but if we only look at it on a daily basis, then we never feel like we've achieved much. But if you look back over a month or a quarter, then you can take stock and think, actually, all that effort has been worth it because look how far I've come.
Exactly. And that was one of the things that Donna taught me was in my book of words that I keep, when I started doing my training, she said, I want you to write, start it on whichever month you're starting it. Say it was, February. Every day, write down a small win for you that day, whatever it is, no matter how insignificant it might seem to somebody else. If it had impact for you, write it down because you will forget.
Yeah,
and when you
will.
look back in a month or 2 months' time, you'll think, oh, gosh, I did do that, didn't I? I've forgotten I did that. I've forgotten I achieved that. Those kind of things are really important. We used to have that in practice as part of my training when I was doing my training in London to be in homeopathy. We were encouraged to have a box of, if you like, they used to call it, not a box of compliments, but...
Yeah, like write a little something on a piece of paper and put it in a jar or box or whatever it is.
Patients who come back and said, thank you so much, I feel so much better. My mother says I look amazing. My pain's gone, I'm able to do this. Write it down and stick it in that box. Because when you have a difficult day or a case you're working on is progressing more slowly than you anticipated, get the stuff out of the box and read it because that will keep you going. Otherwise, it's easy to feel like, oh, you crushed, basically. Those kind of things.
Plant some little things for yourself to prop you up along the way.
Yeah, plant the seeds of happiness and, success, whatever that is to you, because that's a different word to different people. But it's important to do that and to actually go back and look at them. I was rereading that book probably about 3 months ago, and I've completely forgotten all the things that I'd done. I thought, oh yeah, I'd forgotten I'd done that. Forgotten I'd set out to do little things, but I'd determined to do it and I'd achieved it. And just that own personal sense of, that was good. But because you're carrying on with the do every day, you forget those things.
Funny enough, that's the one thing I'm still struggling with. So I've implemented a fantastic morning routine to look after my physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual health, meditate, exercise, coach chat, all the rest of it, listen to some good advice, and then get on with my working day. I try and go for a walk at lunchtime. But the evening bits, like the closing the day, the gratitude at the end of the day, I do it mentally, but I'm struggling to remember to actually write it down.
Yeah.
And occasionally, like we have this conversation, it's like, it would be so lovely to have a book like that to read back. Maybe I just need to think a lot harder how to...
Business of our lives, it's I get to the end of the day and I'm pooped,
My other thing is I don't live by my phone. You know what I mean? And like I use an app, so I check off things like little habits that I do in the morning and during the day, and then comes to the evening where it does actually have an element of daily gratitude, like daily wins, like 3 wins today and reflection of the day. But because I kind of put my phone down when I start cooking dinner and I don't really pick it up until the next morning, it kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend that time with my husband than with my phone.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
That in itself is amazing.
That side of things is instinctive for me. I start my day with that and I end my day with that. I'm a practicing Catholic, so for me prayer time is very precious.
Yes.
So before I actually fall asleep, I do actually go mentally, or I usually speak it out loud, and say thank you for all the things, all the people I've met today, the conversations I've had, the things that have brought me happiness, things that I'm thankful for. And then obviously I remember people who, my family and friends maybe who are going through a difficult time, and ask for them to be blessed in some way, whatever way they need. So for me, that going through that routine is, I suppose, easier for me. And in the morning, it's different again, because I'm starting a new day. I'm grateful I've woken up for a start.
Yeah.
I've got another chance, another go.
Yeah.
I get to have another go. Another new day. All the opportunities that are going to come from that. People I'm going to speak with, who might introduce me to somebody else who needs to hear something or wants to hear something, or I can give them something that will help them on their way.
Can I just say that you don't actually have to be a practicing any religion to have gratitude and to just run through the day and call it pray, call it gratitude, call it whatever you want. It's that activity of saying it, doing it. Because I do morning gratitude. As you said, I'm grateful for being awake, of having another day, of breathing fresh air, and grateful for people in my life. But the way you summed up your end of day gratitude practice, that's really appealing.
Yeah,
I'll try and make efforts to introduce something like that. The problem is I go to bed, I fall asleep.
Yeah, it's having that, even if you just sit in bed for a minute before you lie down, because we all it's busy, and it's like, also it helps to just slow everything down. Even if you discuss with your husband and say, darling, what are you grateful for today? What top 4 things maybe would you like to say thank you for? And that puts you in that nice place of like...
Yeah, I think this is the sort of thing, maybe find something I can piggyback it onto, like sort of habit stacking.
Or what's made you laugh? My parrots make me laugh. They might have said or done something.
What kind
hilarious.
of parrots are they? Little ones, big ones?
Medium. I've got African greys. I've got 2, so they're about this size.
They talk, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. It's Beaky. The things she says at times are hilarious, yeah. So those kind of things, I love that laughter. The other day I was talking to my brother on the telephone, and in the background I could hear my 2 in the kitchen. They were talking to each other and laughing their heads off. It's just like...
Does it kind of make sense? I know that parrots are incredibly intelligent, but can they actually have a meaningful conversation, or do they just repeat words kind of thing? Or does it sound funny to us?
It sounds funny to us, but there is intelligence in what they're saying, because they're incredibly emotional creatures, very smart, very quick. What they do is they tune into the emotion that's going on around them.
Okay.
If they've heard particular sentences said with a certain emotion, they will remember that and understand the emotion and the feeling
attached to those words.
Yeah. And then often when I'm having a chat with Beaky, this is no word of a lie, she actually went through this with me. She likes sitting on top of the door in my other house. I was in the kitchen, she was on the kitchen door. So she was up there just watching me, and I said, "You all right there, Beaks?" I said, how was your day today? Without missing a beat, she went, "Oh, life's hard." I fell over laughing.
Oh my goodness, laugh must be so hard for a parrot, eh?
I laughed. I said, "Oh, really?" And she's going, "Oh," she says like this. It's because she's heard things on the radio or on the television, or she's heard me talking about something.
Oh, you might have been talking like that one day, coming home from work.
Yeah. And she might have been feeling that at the time, maybe feeling a bit meh. And so she remembers this, and her way of expressing in human are these words, So, yeah.
That is hilarious.
It is.
That's so funny.
Yeah, they are very amusing. I mean, they do say very funny things, both of them, at times. But it's not random. It's usually their way of communicating in human. Very much so. Beaky will tell me when she and Monty are tired, because she'll say, no, I want to go to bed. Now, I know when they need to go to bed because they have a set routine. But if I've been a bit late, because I've got late with doing a...
So they know the time so precisely.
Yeah, they do, because we have a routine. It's like having kids, actually. They have a routine.
I was saying, what do you do when you go on holiday?
Or they go to specialist boarder.
Right.
Yeah, specialist parrot hotel. So they know the routine, and if I've been late because I've been late with talking to a customer about utility warehouse, I do evening appointments as well.
Right.
They're more than ready to go to bed, and she will make it very obvious, making yawning noises. Oh, She'll say like this. So you're tired, Big? She says, no, I want to go to bed. And she's talking about Monty as well. He doesn't speak so much as she does now because she tends to be dominating the scene a bit.
Okay.
She talks more than he does, so he's become a bit like, not quite the hen-pecked man, but yeah.
Do you separate them to then just sort of give him that little bit more social time?
No, they've got the ability to be separated because they have a very free and open life in my house. But they are actually pals. Beaky doesn't like being separated from him now for too long. She gets a bit like, where is he? Where is he? I think he's quite happy sometimes for, he goes into his man cave to get rid of the endless blah, blah.
I think we can relate.
So he slopes off,
No disrespect to either men or women.
No.
I think we can relate.
Yeah, so it's just the same in the bird world.
That's hilarious. We trailed away from business quite a bit here, but then again, our little it's interesting how our human life rubs off on our pet's life.
Yeah, well, they've been in my life for years, so they're very much part of my life.
Yeah.
People know me as the mad bird with two. That's that's how I'm known. Beaky joins me on my business meetings because she loves being on the Zoom. She likes being in on the scene.
Okay.
So she sits on her. I've got a small stand like this, which is very light and portable. She quite happily sits on there like this, looking at the screen. Every now and then she goes, when people are talking because she's like joining in.
Of course, she must have heard it from you, kind of thing. Yeah.
When I'm on the phone, I'm going,
And do people pick up on that there is another person, kind of, or somebody else commenting?
Well, they know it's her because they can see her. Yeah. So Beaky gets known.
If you are on the phone.
Oh right, no. Sometimes no. I sometimes have to remember that I'm used to having her there. I have to say, look, if you hear laughter or something weird noises,
I'm not there.
Yeah, it's not me. As it's my bird is with me because she does have a habit of making rude noises at times.
It's brilliant though, but then again, it just makes you a person.
Yeah.
And helps you connect with the other person
It's a crazy
that much
life.
more. So there you go. Here's a bit of business advice. Have a pet.
Yeah, most people do now that we've got this hybrid working. I think one of the things that I've noticed, most business owners, if they can, love to have their dog or their cat with them. And it's quite normal now to see one or the other join us on business calls. I've been chatting to people on a Teams meeting, if they're not in the office, if they're at home, and their dog will be curled up at their feet or the cat will be on their lap quietly.
Yeah, and why not?
And why not, yeah.
I was so lucky. We built a studio at the back of the garden. I thought, I can take my dog to work.
Yeah.
She hated it.
Oh. That plan didn't go well.
All she wanted to do was go back to the house.
Oh.
But then again, every hour I would go down to the toilet or something, so I would see her and pet her, and then she'd happily see me off again.
Yeah,
she's like, "Oh, leave me alone! I want to sleep."
Mum. Yeah, I'm going back to bed. Yeah.
She was like a cat. She would sleep like 23 hours out of 24, but yeah, she was a good one. I think we covered an awful lot of very, very good advice for people who want to start up any kind of business, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's going into self-employment or running multiple businesses. I think we really touched upon a number of things. What would you pick out as the most important messages?
I would say if you think you can do it, believe you can. Believe it.
Yes.
If you think you can do it, believe it and do it.
I think the one keyword to all of it is mindset.
Mindset.
Because every single one of these bits of advice, however cliche it sounds, they all come from experience. And you and I have both experienced all of these things.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Just go for it, yeah.
Yeah, one of my greatest learnings recently was the don't go for perfection, go for progress.
Absolutely.
And you very much touched on this sort of theory a couple of times through the conversations.
Yeah.
I'll happily add that too in.
Yeah, perfection will destroy you because you'll never get there.
No.
So,
Are you thinking of retiring? I think you already answered that.
no, not
Not
tomorrow.
really, not really. Not in the foreseeable future either.
No, I think, I would like to be able to slow down and do less, yes. But that's part of the plan of why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
I would say, do you think you will achieve the financial freedom to give you that time freedom to give that choice?
Yes.
But by the sound of it, you've got the ambition to drive you through to do that.
Yeah, I've got a short term, a medium, and a long term. The long term is 5 years from now.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
Yeah, 5 years from now will put me at how old am I? About put me at 69. So, I intend to have solid businesses that I can rely on within 5 years.
That brings you the actual passive income.
Yes, so that I can actually start slowing down a bit and choosing how much and how long I want to work every day, how many days a week I want to work.
Fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah.
Would you consider setting up a new business, another business?
No, not at the moment. I think I've got enough plates to spin.
Yeah. Finally, would you have any recommendations for books or certain people to listen to?
Yeah,
younger?
I would definitely say, I think everyone should read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Definitely. Understand that, and because, that's number one. There are so many books out there. And I've read quite a few of them already.
Which one of Bob Proctor's books would you pick?
I think I've listened to a lot of the videos because a lot of what I did was, again, through online learning with my mentor, my coach. So I don't know the publications as such, but yeah, definitely the Change Your Paradigm, Change the Results, definitely. Because that is just what we're all programmed with, a certain paradigm, and that's how we go through life, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Anything, I think, by Big Al Schreider, he's an American. A lot of these are Americans.
Schreider.
Schreider, yeah. He's known as Big Al Schreider. I know him through Utility Warehouse. Okay. He's focused very much on network marketing, which of course primarily the businesses both are that I'm involved in are network marketing. But there's some good lessons in there again about how to talk to people and understand the psychology of humans.
Thank you very much, Mary, for joining me today for this episode of New Business in Later Life. I think we had a lot of brilliant insight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
From power words to power bills, this guest does it all. If you are looking for top-tier content or savvy utility advice, head over to Graywing Creations and see how Mary can help your business shine. If you would like to know more about routine, please get in touch with me. All our contact details are in the show notes. Thank you very much for tuning into New Business in Later Life, and see you next week.